Oh wow, the egg finally hatched. According to my Pokédex, it's a Togepi. Oh, it's so cute. But who gets to keep it? It seems to like Misty, but Brock mothered it, and, well, I found it. And then there's Meowth. Let's just listen to the podcast and see what happens. Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor.
And I'm Rena Taylor.
And this is
The Trainer's Guide. Today's episode,
Who Gets to Keep Togepi? Hey, episode 47.
Woohoo! We're getting there.
I know, I can't believe it.
I'm addressing the elephant in the room. I have a cold, so I'm very stuffy. So I'm getting over it, but that's why, we might all sound a little more like Rudolph today.
Oh,
it's
dear.
so cute.
It's so cute.
That was very Rudolphy. I like it.
Thank you. My
good.
inspiration. I mean, you're my inspiration. Oh. But Rudolph is definitely my other inspiration.
Number 2.
Yes. This is a great episode. I can't believe we're on 47.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, too, just as a side note, for myself, I've been really fascinated trying to listen to see if the voice changed as I became more and more pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's changed very much.
I haven't noticed a big shift.
No, it's just
so
really
far.
good.
Yeah. It's just
my gosh.
smooth like butter.
Oh, yeah, it's a butter character.
Very buttery.
Anyway, it's been really interesting just kind of listening to that. This is a great episode, speaking of babies.
Oh my gosh,
because Togepi, it's like a tiny baby.
Yeah.
I mean, how they care for it, and when it comes out, it's just like so cuddly and small and wobbly.
And everybody has that like newborn... Yeah, joy, kind of. Like it just, or softness, I should say.
Yeah.
Like even Team Rocket forgets that they're Team Rocket for a second.
Yeah.
Which I love them. So this is a good Team Rocket episode, I feel like. They get to exercise a lot of the things that they've been doing. Like this is it's kind of all their greatest hits coming out. They get a costume.
I see what you mean.
Costume change. Mm-hmm. They get a little bit of thieving. Mm-hmm. We see their soft side a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then,
we learn more about Meowth.
Yeah.
Really.
So I feel like this is kind of a good catch-all for them.
Yeah. Well, a lot happens and yet nothing happens.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Our trio is in a small town. And they go to the Pokemon Center. There's no name of the town at all.
But we're headed towards, I think, Cinnabar Island.
Yes.
Is kind of a little bit later they decide to head towards that. So if you're looking at a map, they're somewhere headed towards Cinnabar Island.
Right. And they just seem to be like, like we all need to be cool with it. They're just ready to go with the flow.
Yeah, totally.
But they get a phone call from Professor Oak, which, of course, is one of my favorite things because back in 1998, we didn't have video phone call possibilities.
Right.
And so this is it's always been a dream of mine to be able to do video phone calls like on the Jetsons and then like on Pokemon. And now we do it every day.
Yeah, I know.
So that's just an interesting
thing. I love that the video call, that the message that he leaves is kind of like a semaphore. Like he's like, call me back.
Oh, yeah,
and he's
that's
moving
true.
his arms and it's very semaphore-like.
Maybe it's in the video game too or some. It's so simple and... Since whenever we go to the beach, we're trying to learn how to do.
That is a life goal of ours, is to learn semaphore.
And be a lifeguard.
Well, yes.
And perhaps Professor Oak, who does many things. Baking,
I would not put it past him if he was also a lifeguard.
Well, he needs to have more skills because Muck, when they talk to Professor Oak, is always like mucking, squishing him, kind of smothering him with love. Yeah. And it's so gross. And yet, Muck doesn't seem to be gooey. It's just like a slug.
Mucky. He says, because he asks Ash basically like how things are going. Mm-hmm. And then he says something along the lines of, next time, can you find more Pokemon that are not so mucky?
Right. And stop mucking around. People say that in real life.
Exactly.
the big
But yeah,
thing
it is
here,
unclear what kind of a texture muck is.
I think slug, but maybe not as slimy.
Yeah.
But muck is very adaptable.
So
Again,
true. How did
as
Ash
we must
find
be.
muck? I can't remember.
Do not ever ask me what happened in the past. I just go through. I have a lot going on, and I can't keep it all in.
I know. I saw muck and I was like, oh yeah, how did that happen? Anyway, we're so far ahead that I'm forgetting what goes on
Also,
before.
Maybe when we end this season, we'll just go back and start over. And we'll see what happens. Well, the great thing about this is Professor Oak says, you can get a Pokédex upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just sticks the Pokédex in the slot and then it upgrades.
Yeah.
And it says that your Pokédex will have a new voice.
I know. It sounds kind of the same to me, I will admit.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I didn't notice it, but it always sounds good.
Hey, that's for sure. I will say this opening felt very much like the video game. Like it felt, and because even Professor Oak goes, get out there and earn more badges and catch more Pokemon and all this kind of stuff. And it felt very video game coded, as the kids would say. Like it didn't feel like part of the story at all. Like it felt very much like we were in the video game.
The show is kind of an ad for the games and cards and all of that too. And this is one of those instances where you realize it kind of is, even though it's the characters that draw you in.
Well, yes, totally. I also think, I will say, this episode I thought was really interesting too, because if you're watching along, I wonder if you noticed this, but the animation style felt very like anime
in
at
some
times.
Parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they get the simple stuff in. Yeah.
Or like it was really crisp in points and very detailed. Like even later on when Meowth splashes water on Jesse and James, like even that, their face, it felt very much like we're like an anime. Where I feel like obviously that's the style, but
because they're in American
it felt
cartoons.
like stylistically this episode was a little bit different, which I think is really cool. So there was just a lot that I was going, I feel like this is something that we haven't seen before in a lot of the episodes.
Exactly.
Which I thought was
So then you
interesting.
also must wonder what was happening as they were producing the episodes.
Yeah.
And you know how I was in His and Her Circumstances, and by the end, it seems like they lost some money, and so it was drawn more simply and stuff. Things like that happen too, which is a shame.
And you wonder maybe they were trying to experiment too
maybe you
with
never
style
know.
Or I don't know. Anyway.
Because I've not asked anyone.
Well,
so
there's
that's
no way of
point
knowing,
number
as we
one.
say. Yeah.
It's ask more questions.
True.
To the people who might be able to answer them.
Yeah, find people who could answer questions and then ask them all of them.
Exactly.
And then ask them more.
Which dovetails into this where they have to consult a map.
So true.
To tell them where to go next.
So true.
So,
yes.
Again, ask questions and consult maps. We see Brock really caring for this egg since no one knows what it's going to be.
Right. Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, this is the thing. Brock has been caring for this egg since Ash found it. And he basically takes it out. What I love is he carries it under his shirt.
Yes, keep it warm.
He's keeping it warm. He's
That's
incubating
adorable.
it, as we all know. Anyway, and so I guess Ash and Misty haven't noticed this. I mean, I didn't notice a big egg bulge in his shirt in the last couple of episodes, but apparently this is what he's been doing, and he's been sleeping with the egg and keeping it warm, and this is the first time they're hearing of this. So, which is just funny. He's very secretive with his caring.
That's true, actually. I think you've got to tuck your shirt in to keep the egg from falling out.
Yeah.
It's a very
like a pouch.
Particular style. Plus he has the vest, which can downplay.
And the vest has many pockets so that maybe the egg fits in one of those.
Or,
but it still would stick out. It's a big egg.
That's true. It's kind of a pregnancy thing, and Brock can handle it.
Brock is he's got a real feminine side to him. He's not afraid to express his emotions or care. I mean, look, he's taking care of all of his siblings.
It's amazing.
So he definitely knows what he's doing. I would trust him with the egg for sure.
Yes, and they do. And also, he's doing that so everyone else can do something else.
Yes.
I love that they go through what could it be.
Right.
Tentacruel, Aerodactyl, Golem, Lapras.
Yeah.
And then we see Team Rocket.
Right.
And they, too, are dreaming about what this egg could be.
Yeah, so they're so Ash, Misty, and Brock are in this diner kind of deciding where they're going to go next. And then they start talking about the egg. When is it going to hatch? All this kind of stuff. And then we see Team Rocket, who are also in the diner, in waitress outfits.
Yes.
So they are basically working at this diner, which I guess makes sense because they've got to make some money or do something while they're not catching Pokemon.
Or they just had the costumes, so they've
Or
put
they're
them
just
on
in costume.
and are infiltrating.
And then they're sitting in the break room. So somehow, I mean, they really get into all these spaces. It's pretty amazing. That's like us trying to get into that bookstore last night. We just walked in. But they did catch us.
There was a party going on, so we thought, let's just go.
Yeah.
We were in London.
Yes.
So we thought we could blend in somehow.
Yeah, we were like, well, let's just go see what's going on. And anyway, and so I just boldly just walked in past this group of people standing outside. But then one of the ladies in the group worked there and was like, oh,
and
sorry,
said no.
we were having an event and the event is closed and we're actually trying to get people out of the bookstore. So we can't let you in.
Maybe that's what Team Rocket does. They're just trying to get people out of the diner.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe they were hired to do that. I'm just pretty amazed that people really just let them do that stuff.
Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all need to be a little bit more like Team Rocket sometimes.
Costumes.
And sometimes not. Exactly, costumes. So they are also trying to think about what the egg is, and they decide that they're going to steal it. What I love is that James says, well, wait, we have a proud tradition of failure to uphold.
Yes.
Because they still haven't been able to catch Pikachu. So how can they even dream about catching this egg? Anyway, and so he gets kind of cut out of the conversation because whatever. And he goes, I'm okay to break tradition or something
As
like
they
that.
go running off.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So they come back with these baskets of Pokemon eggs.
They are like Dutch egg sellers.
Yes, with
these Dutch girl
right.
egg sellers, Jesse and James. And again, it's another kind of like, I just saw that again, the Queen Anne episode, no, the Saint Anne episode, where they go, ooh, cool. And it's very similar. Ooh,
the vibe.
eggs.
And also with the costumes. Yes, that's
they're
true.
kind of channeling that.
And they have these all different
Pokemon eggs.
designs because the Togepi has these little triangles on it. So, they all spill.
It's pretty ingenious because they say we're selling eggs, and Brock goes, well, we don't need an egg because we already have our own. And they said, let's see it. And so he pulls it out, and then they throw the eggs from the basket at them, knocking the egg out of Brock's hand, and then Meowth catches it and they run away. I mean, they really do a great job, except for when they're running away, they leave a trail of eggs.
Broken eggs. Because those eggs are kind of like little, not time bombs, but they have little doing.
Yeah, they're
come
like
out.
Easter eggs,
Yes.
kind of. They've got stuff inside. But
yeah,
they
an
open
Easter egg from video games that has things hidden inside.
Exactly.
But anyway, the point is Meowth gets the real egg.
He takes the egg.
And takes care of it and lays over it and eats with it, bathes it in the hot tub.
Eggy waggy.
It's just so, it's so cute that it's like Meowth finally has a reason for being.
Yeah. I do think Meowth really, I think, enjoys being bad and doing their bad things. But there are a lot of episodes where Meowth kind of finds another path that he wants to take or it wants to take.
Maybe they all do, actually.
I think so. I mean, I think they all kind of have these dreams that they tamp down a little bit in order to be
because they have to be
fulfill
bad.
their role. Right.
They have the job, they have to do it, but it's not what they want to be doing the rest of their lives.
Or just not something like maybe they think they want to be doing it, you know, because there's some times when you have a job and you think this is what I want to be doing, but then there's some kind of, you feel like a calling and you don't necessarily know how to verbalize it.
Right.
But you can feel that. And I feel like with them, they're constantly being pulled in these other directions and then get brought back to reality of being bad.
And Meowth, for sure, in this episode.
I know.
So they...
I feel bad for Meowth in this one, I will say.
Me too. Don't get to the end yet.
I know. Spoiler.
So now our trio comes to find them with the egg, and they're trying to get it back.
Yes, and I will say, very kind of out of pocket, crash they throw their Pokemon through the window of this cabin that
Their
Team Rocket
hideout.
is
Yeah.
hiding in, and they crash through and really do like a gigantic surprise, an ambush.
Right.
And basically they don't really have a Pokemon battle, but they kind of have a Pokemon tussle.
Well, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just came up with that.
Not a full throwdown.
No, but they're just like everybody's throwing each other themselves,
The-
and then the egg gets
Pidgeotto,
knocked around.
Geodude, Staryu, Psyduck tries to get out, but
Yeah.
then goes back, poofs
Psyduck is
back out.
crazy.
Arbok wheezing. Ultimately, the egg is in the air. Ash dives for it, and Pikachu catches it.
Yeah, he misses, and Pikachu catches it. It's pretty amazing.
And then it starts to hatch.
Yes, and it kind of like
Yeah,
like
it's doing
these-
that wobbly bit, like
you
all
guys
eggs
know.
do.
You're listening. You can picture this. It's like these like little rays, these waves come out of it.
Right. Hatch waves.
Hatch waves. Yeah. And Togepi is born.
And
Togepi hatches out.
Pikachu shocks Team Rocket.
Oh yeah. Well, Togepi hatches, and Misty, right before it hatches, kind of like bumps Ash and says, "I want to see." And so she takes the egg to look at it, and then Togepi hatches and
In her arms.
and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cute." And everybody looks. Even Team Rocket goes, "Oh, if Pikachu hadn't caught it, the egg could be, And then they go, "Oh, we still have a Pokemon battle to finish." Blah blah blah. And Pikachu thundershocks them. And then they leave. They go, "Bye, see you later," and they run away, which is funny. I thought that was an interesting idea. And so then Ash, Misty, Brock are sitting on a park bench, and they're kind of, well, first of all, they don't know what it is.
Right. So Ash, of course, looks it up in his newfangled
Pokédex.
handy-dandy Pokédex.
I wonder if he hadn't updated it, if we would know at all what Togepi was. Maybe it wouldn't
Perhaps
have known.
not, because they could have looked it up before. So it's got to be
I
that.
guess so, yeah. Anyway, so we find out that, and then they're kind of deciding who will get to keep it.
Right.
And they start to have this argument of what everybody's done to deserve the egg.
Right. Brock says, "I mothered it,"
Right.
which he did. Ash
Yeah.
found it. Misty says, "It likes me best."
Right. But she didn't do anything
But
to help it.
yes, but she just always is
She
nice.
just was there.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then Meowth, "I took care of
And
it."
then Meowth comes back and says, "I took care of it more than any of you." All
and
this
Meowth
stuff.
loves it.
I know.
Yeah.
Meowth really, really cares about this thing. And Team Rocket, or Jesse and James, I should say, are also like, "You guys should give this to Meowth," all this stuff. And so they decide to have an official Pokemon tournament battle.
Right.
And the winner of that will get to keep Togepi.
This is also an interesting point I wanted to bring up, because in the Book of Solomon in the Bible, and I think also there's a ancient Chinese story about this, and it's also in a play, The Caucasian Chalk Circle by Bertolt Brecht. All of those stories and the play have this same theme, where these two women claim to be the mother of the baby, and then they're judged who should keep it. And here we have the same thing playing out, but they're going to do a full-on battle. In Caucasian Chalk Circle, it's the woman. There's the woman who's the mother, but then there's the woman who really took care of and raised the child. And so in that play, he has the two of them hold the arms of the child and pull.
Right.
And so whoever gets the most of the baby that's pulled apart gets to keep the child. And the woman who cared the most
mother
for
figure,
the
maybe.
yes,
Yeah.
who cared the most for the child and actually cared for it, she refuses to pull and hurt the child. So that is the lesson learned here. No one is pulling the tiny little arms of Togepi, but it's still a battle to see who is the rightful owner. I'm not sure. But it's interesting that this is an old story, this idea, and here it is in Pokemon coming out.
That
Anyway,
is interesting.
So
I thought too, it kind of reminds you of like when people talk about getting divorced and they have the dog, who's going to keep the dog, and who the dog runs to or something.
Oh,
they're like, who will let the dog decide?
I didn't know people did that. Let the dog decide.
Maybe that was in a movie or something.
It might have been a movie, because in real life, someone is always upset who doesn't get to keep the dog.
Well, yes.
And so that's the whole.
But they say
ultimately
who will run, who the dog chooses, or like
Right,
whatever.
but-
And so it's an interesting thing that even for this, eventually it does come down to
Choose.
Togepi's decision.
Yes,
But
because
it's just interesting that they get to decide just based off of who's a better
Battler.
battler. Like,
Right.
I don't know. It's just kind of a weird. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily feel the most fair. But-
that's absolutely true.
But here we are. This
here-
is Pokemon after all.
This battle is a sudden death.
Yes.
They each so Meowth, Ash, Misty, and Brock get to battle one Pokemon each, sudden death, and then the winner is the one who keeps Togepi.
Right. And Meowth, basically, initially when they're doing the battle, Meowth says that Jesse and James are not allowed to battle because
They did nothing.
They did nothing.
Right.
And they get upset. And then after he kind of disqualifies them, he realizes that he doesn't have any Pokemon to battle with.
Right, and tries to borrow one.
And they refuse to give him their Pokemon, which makes sense. But then he has this realization of, hey, I'm a Pokemon too. I'll just use myself. And so he is playing this interesting role of both trainer and Pokemon.
and has to answer to himself.
Yeah, and he keeps like going back and forth being like, okay, Meowth, do this. And he's
Right.
like, yeah, okay. It's just so crazy. That's like
and wonderful.
exhausting, I can only imagine.
Well,
To
you
have
know,
to be doing all of that kind of stuff.
that's what we all do in our lives.
Yeah,
you
I know.
have to set out and, kind of talk to yourself to make sure you stay on target and
Yeah.
accomplish your goals and be your biggest cheerleader
Yeah.
and fight your own battles.
Absolutely.
So again, we're learning from Meowth.
He's very wise.
Well, actually, yeah. So it's first Meowth versus Onyx. So
Yeah.
Meowth versus Brock.
right. And yeah, and Meowth is trying, all of his cat attacks.
Scratch.
Which don't work with rocks.
That's true.
And then he does come up with this brilliant idea. There's surprisingly 2 buckets of water
Yeah.
on the stage where they are. And so he uses those and defeats Onyx, which is kind
Amazing.
of cheating. But he says, I'll do whatever it takes.
And he
I am
keeps-
like a parent protecting my
I
child.
know. And then he
Which-
looks over at Togepi
I know.
and says, I'll do whatever I can. I'll do. And Togepi's like,
I know.
looking at the.
See, this is the thing. I feel bad for him because he really, really cares.
I know.
And I don't know. It's just not fair. I feel like they should do some kind of a shared custody thing.
Well, more on that
Like Togepi
another time.
Togepi should be able to visit Meowth. Like
Who-
Meowth
who
should have some
knows?
time with Togepi.
Could happen in the future.
I know. I just feel
If
bad.
they turned good, it could work out. Next, we have Ash versus Misty, which is
Right.
Bulbasaur versus Psyduck.
Yes.
And
this again, is this fair? I mean, we know that what we find out. So Psyduck, Misty's not going to choose Psyduck, but Psyduck comes out of the backpack to battle into the ring. And she wants it to go back into the ball. And we find out that you're not allowed to, retract a Pokemon once it's been called. But Psyduck has a mind of its own. And so, how is that really fair, too? Because it's not the trainer's decision. Psyduck just appears.
you got to take,
You got to take
go with
you
what
get.
you're dealt.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
But again, it's just kind of feels unfair.
That tells a lot about you. So,
Yeah.
okay, this is a great thing because Misty says, hey,
Right.
Bulbasaur, give Psyduck a headache. Go ahead, do whatever you want.
Right.
And Ash is going, I'm not gonna fall for that, Misty.
Yeah.
and then ends up doing tickle attack.
He says, lick Psyduck's
Yes.
head.
and
And
then
so Bulbasaur's licking Psyduck.
it's crazy.
And then, doing a tickle attack and basically tickles Psyduck into defeat.
That's right.
Which I would think that the tickles would also kind of aggravate it.
I would think
You know,
so too,
like-
but maybe
but I guess not.
it's just what Psyduck needed, a little laughter.
A little TLC.
Again,
tickle lick.
we all need to
something.
laugh more. Not, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now we get up to Ash versus
final.
Meowth, and we're set up to go. Pikachu standing next to Meowth,
Meowth's getting ready, pep talk,
and basically Pikachu
Oh my God.
looks at the camera and then
and puts its tail on Meowth's charm.
and just shocks it.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's the end.
The battle is over basically before it could even get started.
Terrible.
I know. It's just like, wow. No wonder they want to take Pikachu. It's so powerful.
I know, but I love that bit of comic timing where it's just
Yeah.
the setup is there. We all know what's going to happen, and then it does.
Yeah.
So
ultimately...
And Meowth is crying.
Yes, because Team Rocket is dragging him out.
Jesse James are dragging him away, saying, I knew he would lose. And James goes, the heroes always get the breaks. Which, in this case, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything good happens to them and nothing good happens to Team Rocket. Which I feel bad about.
But they had a shot.
And they really tried their best.
I know. And so, shockingly, they've lost. But so poor Meowth is dragged off. And Ash says, well, I'm keeping Togepi.
Right.
It's mine. And Brock is just standing there fine.
Yeah.
And Misty goes, well, I tried to tell you because Togepi's not going to Ash.
Togepi's sad. Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? He's kind of, and then Togepi goes to Misty and that's it. It's over.
We find out that, which way? I wrote down that Togepi imprinted on Misty, but did Misty imprint on Togepi? I think Misty imprints on Togepi.
Togepi imprints on the first thing it sees.
It imprints.
Because it has, that's the same as a duck.
Yeah, totally.
When a duck hatches near you, it follows you around, things like that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm always working on that.
Always. Maybe even the same for baby spiders.
All the time. Ew.
What about when
spiders.
all that spider egg sac breaks and all those spiders come flying out?
Oh my God.
I think they would probably think you...
Mama. I would be a terrible spider mother because I don't know how to make a web.
They'd just be in your hair, living in your hair.
Oh, that would be beautiful. It would be so thick and voluminous.
Yes, as they spun their webs. And anyway, we digress.
So disgusting. But just in time for Halloween.
Togepi imprinted on Misty and wants to be with Misty.
And it thinks Misty's its mother.
And
that's
she's
basically
so happy and picking the baby up and spinning around. And Ash and Brock stand there with their heads hanging. And then that's basically the end.
And that's it. And the announcer's like, who better? I think Togepi really is the lucky one.
I didn't even hear what the announcer said at the end. I was just sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of I do think it's interesting, at the end, it does come down to Togepi's decision. And it feels kind of weird it feels weird anyway, solving anything about, like, who gets to keep this creature with a Pokemon battle. Like, it just feels very, like,
wrong.
In the Roman times when their gladiators are like fighting and I'm strong. It just feels like that's not really the way to do it.
In this case, your ideas and feelings are justified because Togepi chooses Misty, chooses correctly.
Yeah.
And they all live somewhat happily ever after.
And it's a baby. You can't really tell a baby what, like, okay, this is your
You
thing
try,
now.
but
Babies,
you can't.
Yeah, babies have a mind of their own.
That's right.
And they're the smartest, as we know.
That's absolutely true. So we've learned in this episode to get out there and laugh, to consult maps and other people who can answer the many questions that you must be asking.
Got to stay curious.
Stay curious. I think we should care for others.
And care. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, regardless of the outcome, you should always care for somebody in need.
That's it.
Regardless of what you might get out of it.
And that's what we learned from Pokemon for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all in it together.
Totes.
I think this is a good time for the Poke Wrap Up,
where we hear from you, the Pokemon community.
We asked you to send in your Pokemon memories, stories, and inspirations.
And here is one of this week's.
Hi, Veronica and Rena. My name is Eve, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've loved every moment of the podcast. It makes me feel like I'm on a journey right along with you guys, so thank you. I have a lot of Pokemon memories, but I thought this one would be fun to share. When my sister and I were little, we spent a lot of time at our grandparents' house. I was Pokemon obsessed enough that even my grandma had a favorite Pokemon, and that was, and still is, Jigglypuff, mostly because of the song it sings in the anime and how every character would fall asleep when they heard it. When my grandma would sing Jigglypuff's song, my sister and I would lay on the ground and pretend to fall asleep. And to this day, when my grandma breaks out the Jigglypuff song, my sister and I will immediately hit the floor. I'm thankful for Pokemon's ability to transcend generations, and especially thankful for Rachel Lillis and her iconic voices in it.
Oh my gosh, Eve, thank you for that story. I really wish we could hear your grandmother singing.
I was going to say that too.
It's so, it's
but
so
we would fall
amazing.
asleep right away, so we wouldn't be able to hear it anyway.
That's true, but that was wonderful. And we want to hear from all of you.
Email us a short recording or write to us at trainersguidepod@gmail.com.
And try to keep it short, maybe 30 seconds or so. We don't want to have to edit.
Oh, and please include your first name and where you're from.
Well, that about wraps up today's episode of The Trainer's Guide. And, as they say, to be continued. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey that is The Trainer's Guide.
As you know, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening now.
And if you subscribe, comment, and rate the podcast, it helps others find the show and keeps us on the air.
Thank you so much in advance for your generosity and all of your amazing support.
Trainer's Guide is a production of Boom Integrated.
We are co-executive producing this along with
The amazing Adrian Glover
and the incomparable Robin Lai. I'm your host, Veronica Taylor.
And I'm your host, Rena Taylor.
And this has been The Trainer's Guide. We'll see you out there on the road.